Welcome in, everyone. Today we're diving deep into some fascinating predictions for 2025 and beyond. We'll be exploring the work of a prominent Chinese astrologer, Cecilia Sui.
Ah, yes. Sui's insights on the Aquarian age are really thought-provoking. Did you know she was actually one of the first in China to take the ISAR certification exam back in 2012? She's been ahead of the curve for a while now.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And she's not afraid to tackle some really big questions. Her latest essay, just published last month, lays out a pretty detailed forecast. But it's not just about specific events, is it?
Not at all. It's more about the bigger picture. You know how societal trends and belief systems could shift during the Aquarian age. Right from the start, she throws out this challenging question. If humanity had to choose its end, would it be war, climate catastrophe, or the AI era?
Whoa, that's a heavy one right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Definitely grabs your attention. So where does she go from there?
She takes this really unique approach, dividing the astrological landscape into two main groups. It's a bit unconventional, but it works. The first group, well, it's all about technology and the information revolution. Think Mercury, Uranus, and Pluto.
And the second.
That's about leadership, ego, and spiritual evolution. Mars, Saturn, Neptune. It's fascinating how she connects it all. But today, let's stick with that first group and Sui's predictions about AI.
Okay, let's unpack that. What exactly does she say about this Age of Aquarius and what it all means?
She's really clear that it's not just a 20-year blip. It's a massive 2,000-year cycle, a shift in, well, everything really, our collective consciousness. And she pinpoints the years 2025 and 2026 as like the turning point. Several astrological events happening all at once.
Like what?
Well, you've got planets converging at the beginning degrees of their signs. Oh, and there's this Aries vortex. It's a lot of planetary energy focused on the vernal equinox, the start of the Zodiac.
Okay, I have to admit, I'm not super fluent in all the astro speak. What does that actually mean for, the average person?
Basically, Sui's saying these alignments are going to be major catalysts, transformations across every aspect of society. She sees potential for, well, upheaval definitely, but also incredible progress. Like humanity's at a crossroads, and the choices we make now, they determine our fate.
Sounds like we need to buckle up for some turbulent times. Does she offer any, guidance how to navigate this?
Absolutely. He really emphasizes global cooperation, working together as a species, and personal adaptability, being able to roll with the punches. She has some specific recommendations, but we'll get to those later. For now, let's focus on those AI predictions.
All right, let's do it. What does she have to say about the rise of AI?
Well, she connects Mercury, Uranus, and Pluto to the information and technology revolution. It's like they represent a golden age driven by AI, biotech, quantum computing, the whole shebang.
Sounds both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. Does Sui think all this advancement is a good thing?
She sees the incredible potential, definitely, but she also injects a huge dose of caution. She's really concerned about the ethical implications, the downsides of this rapid technological development.
What kind of ethical concerns are we talking about?
One of her biggest worries is information overload and the mental and spiritual consequences of that. Attention scarcity, the potential loss of independent thought, the rise of misinformation, and of course, the erosion of privacy in a world dominated by algorithms.
It's almost like this paradox, isn't it? Technology is supposed to connect us, make things easier, but it could also end up isolating us, diminishing our ability to think critically.
Absolutely, and it goes even deeper than that. She uses this term dissolution of self to describe how AI could erode our identities, our unique creative potential.
So not robots taking over the world, but something more subtle. AI shaping who we are.
Precisely. It's like AI becoming so pervasive that it starts defining us, replacing our own creative impulses with machine-generated content, homogenizing human expression.
Can you give an example? What might that look like in practice?
Well, look at the rise of AI art and writing tools. They're becoming so sophisticated. In some cases, they're already replacing human creators.
That's unsettling. I hadn't really thought about it that way before.
I think that's Sui's point. She wants us to wake up, to see the potential consequences of unchecked technological development, to ask ourselves some hard questions about what we're willing to sacrifice for progress.
So it's not about rejecting technology, but being more mindful, more intentional about how we engage with it.
Exactly. Sui's advocating for balance, prioritizing human values, recognizing the potential for both good and harm in AI. So we've been talking about the potential downsides of all this AI development, but Sui doesn't stop there. She dives into a whole other set of astrological influences, what she calls the second archetype group.
Right, the one representing leadership, ego, and spiritual evolution. How does that fit into this whole Aquarian age picture?
This is where it gets really interesting. Sui introduces this concept of magical realism.
Magical realism, like the literary genre.
She sees it as more than that. It's like how reality itself is becoming more surreal, unpredictable. The lines are blurring between ordinary and extraordinary.
So we're in a world where anything's possible, both good and bad.
Exactly. And this whole magical realism vibe is intensified by Neptune, the planet of dreams, illusions, spiritual seeking. And get this, Sui's focused on Neptune in Aries.
Aries, the sign of action, right? Boldness.
Yeah.
But I thought this group was about ego, too. How does Neptune in Aries tie into that?
Sui has this really unique take on it. She says Neptune in Aries could actually lead to a loss of self, a weakening of our individual will. It's almost like Neptune's dreaminess is undermining Aries' independent spirit.
So we're being lulled into passivity even when the world needs us to act.
Yeah, something like that. And she uses this fascinating example from literature to illustrate it. The twin brothers in 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Okay, I'm curious. How do those characters connect to a weakened will?
Sui sees them as embodying the struggle between free will and destiny. One twin represents the fiery, independent Aries energy. The other, the dreamy, passive Pisces energy. They're constantly at odds with each other.
So Sui's saying humanity is facing a similar internal struggle, this pull between wanting to act independently and feeling swept along by forces we can't control.
Exactly. And she brings it back to AI, the idea of the virtualization of free will. Like, we have more choices than ever, but those choices are being shaped by algorithms, data analysis. We think we're in control, but are we really?
It's like the illusion of choice is getting more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Even harder to recognize when our free will is being compromised.
Exactly. And this ties into Sui's call for adaptability. It's not about rejecting technology, but becoming aware of these subtle influences, making conscious choices about how we engage with the world.
So finding that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Embracing the possibilities of the future without losing ourselves in the process.
Right. Sui believes we need to cultivate our critical thinking, our intuition, or connection to something bigger. It's about staying grounded in our values, asserting our individuality, even in a world that's pushing us towards conformity.
Sounds like she's offering a path forward, a way to navigate these wild times without losing our sense of self.
Exactly. And in the final part of her analysis, she gets even more specific. How to cultivate resilience, intuition, interconnectedness, practical advice for staying grounded, finding meaning in this chaotic world.
Okay, I'm ready for that. Let's move on to the final part of this deep dive and explore Sui's recommendations for navigating the Aquarian age. So we've talked about AI, the blurred lines of reality. It's a lot. What does Sui actually suggest we do to navigate all this? Like, not just survive, but thrive in this Aquarian age.
Well, she doesn't give us a step-by-step manual, but she does offer some guidance. And a key point, it's not about rejecting technology or hiding from the world. It's about being more conscious of how we interact with it all.
So less fear, more like eyes wide open engagement.
Exactly. We need discernment to see what truly serves us and what might be, leading us astray. And for Sui, that starts with critical thinking.
Like building up our defenses against all the misinformation out there, learning to question everything.
You got it, especially in this digital age, right? Information overload everywhere. Sui says, be skeptical, dig deeper, look for evidence. Consider different perspectives. Don't just take things at face value.
So becoming more active in shaping our own understanding rather than just passively consuming whatever comes our way.
Precisely. And that leads to Sue's second point. Trust your intuition. In a world that feels so complex, so uncertain, that inner compass can be really powerful.
I get that. Even when everything's chaotic, there's that little voice inside, right? But how do we learn to trust it? Especially when we're so used to looking outside for answers.
Sue's a big fan of practices like meditation, spending time in nature, just paying attention to those gut feelings, quieting the mind so that inner wisdom can come through.
Finding that balance, the head and the heart.
Right. And finally, Sui talks about interconnectedness. Because one of the big risks of this age, isolation, fragmentation.
It's funny, we're all so connected online, but sometimes it feels like we're drifting further apart in real life.
Exactly. Sui's antidote. Cultivate real human connection. build strong communities. Remember, we're all part of something larger than ourselves. It's about shared humanity, supporting each other through all these changes.
Wow, this has been an amazing deep dive. So much to think about. As we wrap up, what's the one key takeaway you hope our listeners are walking away with?
I think Sui's message is ultimately about empowerment. She's not all doom and gloom. She's saying, hey, there are challenges, but there's also incredible opportunity. The Aquarian age is transformative, no doubt. But we have the power to choose how we navigate it. Critical thinking, intuition, connection, these are our tools for not just surviving, but thriving.
It's a good reminder. The future isn't something that just happens to us. We create it through our choices, our actions.
Absolutely. And while there may be bumps along the way, there's also the potential for incredible growth, innovation, collective awakening. It's an invitation to step into our full potential, really, to co-create a future that's more just, more sustainable, more fulfilling for everyone.
Well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. To all our listeners, thanks for being here. Keep exploring, keep embracing the journey.
Now, dive into the full series. Astrologer Blue Witch Cecilia Sui guides you through the profound astrology of 2025 and beyond. Subscribe now to unlock insights shaping our future. Start listening today.